Of the Nets' big three, who has the most on the line?
Harden. Last time I checked, Kyrie Irving is a champion. Kevin Durant is a two-time champion. James Harden has never won a championship. And the only time he's played in the finals is when he was a reserve. I would remind everybody that we're not only talking about being absent of a chip, we're also talking about one of the greatest offensive players the game has ever seen. In the last 5 years, before last season, James Harden clearly came into camp out of shape. He wanted out of Houston. They told him they weren't going to move him, so he didn't work out. He didn't do it on purpose because he wanted to get out of Houston that bad, and it ultimately worked because he wanted to get to Brooklyn, and that is what ended up happening. I will remind you that when you look at Harden, in the last 5 years, the previous 5 seasons, 29, 29.1, and then he was a 3-time scoring champion, 30.4 points a game, 36.1 points a game, 34.3 points a game. And in the midst of all of that, won league MVP honors one of those years and was a runner-up at least once, possibly twice. The brother is a superstar offensive player, make no mistake about it. And we know what he was capable of doing, and we had championship expectations for him, at least to some degree, when he was the man in Houston. Now, not only are you in Brooklyn, and not only are you in Brooklyn with the likes of Kevin Durant, but you're also there with Kyrie Irving. So when fully loaded, healthy, and a full season under their belt, he is absolutely right. There is no one who can beat them. But if we discover that there is somebody, folks are going to look at him.
That depends on how he plays.
That's what I mean.
James Harden, game for game last year, fat and out of shape and all. Showed up in Brooklyn, like I always say, looking a hot mess, fat and out of shape. Was the best player in the NBA game for game. Like, this dude is on another level. He's great. But in regular season, he has yet to be a crunch time, big time playoff performer. I'll give you that. That's not who has the most on the line. And it's not Kyrie Irving either. There's one man who so many people now, including you, are saying is better than LeBron James. It has not happened in LeBron James's career since he, became the best player in the world. What is it, 10 years now? No one until now, not no one, but the majority of people until this moment have never looked at another player. We're on some regular season, this guy gets the MVP, that guy, best player in the world, and said, that guy is better than LeBron. It's to the point now where LeBron's using it as motivation publicly. They're doing it now for Kevin Durant. Our colleague, played 10, 11 years in the league, Ryan Hollins, Stephen A., is out there. He's the best offensive player of all time. And he's not the only one saying it. Lots of people are saying it. And by the way, before the Achilles, he was a great defender, and he still takes on tough defensive assignments. He's a great passer, the whole thing. Kevin Durant has elevated himself to the point where he will be in the GOAT conversation pretty soon if he keeps this up and they win championships. But if they don't, they're going to say, KD, what do you need? You joined a 73-win team that couldn't lose. By the way, they almost lost to the Rockets. But right, and you got Finals MVPs. When you formed your own super team, like, what do you need? Harden and Kyrie, and Blake looks good again, and Harris and everybody. It's not enough? You still lost? No. No one has more on the line than the guy that people like you, Stephen A., are saying now, where's the crown? That's the guy with the most on the line. It's KD.
Max, I think that's a great argument on your part. One of your better arguments, no doubt about it. The problem is we've seen what a colossal impact a star who doesn't show up can have on the rest of the team. And if that happens to be James Harden, which I don't believe will happen. I'm picking Brooklyn to win the chip, and I think James Harden's going to show up and he's going to play lights out.
So do I.
But if by any chance that doesn't happen, he's such a big-time name himself, Max, that nobody's going to turn and look at KD. They're going to look right at him. That's what I'm saying. See, if everybody plays within themselves and somehow you don't get it done, there's no excuse. Of course, you're right about KD. But if you're James Harden, you're such a prolific name, you don't get to hide. And if you don't show up and you don't perform, you're not going to be able to hide behind KD and live in obscurity. Everybody's going to pull you out to the forefront because we've seen KD and we've seen his heroics and we've seen how electrifying he can be, okay? And he's just a hooper. And so if he continues to do what he does, which we all suspect is exactly what he will do, and somehow, some way Harden doesn't show up, then we're going to look at Harden because Harden's a big-time name. Listen, he's not going to escape us, and we're not going to be focused on KD and how KD brought this team together and he didn't get it done. If KD's averaging 40 on 50% shooting or better and better than 40% from three-point range, and he's killing it, but he's looking at his weapons and they don't show.
Well, look, if guys, whoever, like if Kyrie doesn't show up and the other two are balling out and they lose, it'll be on Kyrie. Same thing with KD. Now, you could say more likely that Harden doesn't show up given his postseason track record. I'll agree with you there. But in terms of just who has the most on the line, look, whether it's fair or not, and if KD's watching, I'm sure he's going to be like, there they go, the stupid media narrative, right? But when you don't win it, the mistakes of your past are amplified, right? And what you've done great recedes a little bit, and vice versa. The fact of the matter is, what more could KD have done? He was missing his whole crew. Don't airball the three with the series on the line in overtime of Game 7, right, against the eventual champs, right? Try that. You don't do that, and you're still playing, and maybe you guys get healthy, maybe you do win the title. But the fact of the matter is, not just the foot on the line for KD in Game 7, where he hit the shot, he airballed the final shot of the game, and they lost as a result. If he hits it, they win. Miss it, they lose. Didn't even hit the rim. Right?
Well,
now,
you can't,
in the context of...
Just say he missed the shot. Don't focus on it like that.
Well,
like there was some choke job. He played every minute. Steve Nash didn't give him a second's rest.
Well, let me ask you something.
And here's he was dropping 40 plus.
Hold up. Here's where it's different for KD than Harden or anyone else. This is my point. When you are in the stratosphere that KD is, he didn't ask for this. His own greatness brought him there. But this is what we do. I will ask you, is there any universe that you can simulate 1 billion times where Michael Jordan airballs a three in Game 7 overtime, win or go home? Any scenario. He ain't never going to do it. Maybe he misses it. He ain't never going to airball it.
Yeah,
KD is that great. He's being compared to Jordan and LeBron and the greatest who ever did it.
He took to Twitter on Thursday to say thanks for giving him some added motivation, tweeting this: "Thank you, as if I needed more gas. Hashtag washed. Hashtag frown emoji." Max, tell me this. What does LeBron have to do to silence the haters?
Beat the Nets. How's that? Try that. Beat the Nets. Beat KD and the Nets. That'll silence the haters. By the way, he'll be the underdog to do it, no doubt. Think about if you switch teams, though. Let's say LeBron's teammates were Harden and Kyrie, and KD's were Westbrook, or reuniting, let's just say, with Westbrook and AD. Imagine if you would have given Westbrook and KD, once they reached their peaks, AD on that team. Ooh. You think about it a little differently. You think the Lakers' chances, at least I do, got a little better because of the way KD shoots the ball. Now the shooting problem goes away a little bit. Yeah, LeBron would be the underdog against the Nets. I expect the Nets at full strength to be unmatched. But he's not without chances, LeBron. Westbrook is a great player. With warts and all, he's a great player. AD is a great player. And LeBron, last I recall, was considered by many the MVP last year until he started slowing down due to injury. By many, the MVP last year. This would not be the first time, Stephen A., LeBron James has done something like this. In 16, he beat the 73-win Warriors team, a team in Game 7 where LeBron James won Finals MVP, a team that Kevin Durant's OKC Thunder took to a Game 7 at Oracle and failed to beat. He beat the 73-win team on the road that KD couldn't beat. And he beat Steph Curry and everyone, and he was the undisputed king of basketball. You want to be that again? Because I get where LeBron's coming from. It's one thing if there's a unanimous selection of someone else. Then LeBron has a little less to complain about. But if votes are going to two different guys and he gets none, I see why he's upset, because he's certainly in the mix with KD and Giannis, certainly in the mix. In fact, when I brought that up, I remember you and I think it was Perk getting on me for including Giannis in that mix. But I felt after that finals performance, Giannis has to be in the mix with KD and LeBron. So I get where LeBron is coming from. You want to silence the haters? Beat Brooklyn. That'll silence the haters.
Let me say this to you, Max Kellerman. First of all, I can respect the fact that LeBron James is insulted. He's on the Mount Rushmore of basketball, make no mistake about it. one of the top two or three greatest players of all time. Him, MJ, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I don't think anybody will question that at this point in his career. It's plain and simple. He's on around Mount Rushmore. Having said all of that, I can understand LeBron James being insulted about the Greek Freak. Comparisons to the Greek Freak. He has no business being insulted about Kevin Durant. Could y'all, let me be very, very clear. Let me look into the camera and say this stuff. Kevin Durant is the best player in the world. Period. There is no NBA player, including LeBron James, at this point in time, that is a better player than Kevin Durant in the world. Nobody. Now let me say this. If you're LeBron, I can understand why you're going to be upset about the Greek Freak. Because, see, I'm looking at LeBron James' numbers here. 26, 27, 27, 25, 25 over the last 4 or 5 years, okay? And we see what he shoots from the field. And even though he's a different player than the Greek Freak, he's a creator. Even though we saw Greek Freak passing the ball exceptionally well in the finals against Phoenix, he deserves a lot of credit for that. And we saw the monster game he had in the closeout game, particularly hitting 17 to 19 free throws, which we never thought we'd see from him in our lifetime, okay? We get all of that. But in the end, when you look at LeBron James the playmaker, LeBron James the facilitator, LeBron James the basketball savant that exploits mismatches like it's going out of style, LeBron James the greatest passer in the game as far as I'm concerned. When you look at all the elements of his game and what he brings to the table, there is simply no denying how special LeBron James is, the kind of effect and impact he has on the game of basketball. And there's no way on earth that two players should definitively be rated ahead of him to the point where he receives no votes from the executives and scouts. No votes. There's no excuse for that, okay?
Stephen A., this is where I'm confused, though. LeBron has the same numbers, if not better, than Kevin Durant last season. I'm looking at him right now.
Well, I'm not looking at just numbers.
Yeah.
I'm not looking at just numbers because, you see, if I was looking at just numbers, Molly, I could sit up there and go to the free throw line as well, because I keep bringing that up because that matters and people ignore the fact. See, when you can't hit free throws, Molly, and LeBron James over the last 3 years, let me make sure I have this right on point here. LeBron James over the last 3 seasons, 66.5%, 69.3%, 69.8%. He hasn't hit 70% of his free throws the last 3 years and 4 of the last 5 years. Why does that matter? Because what happens is, if I have questions about you from the free throw line, number one, I can lay off you and dare you to hit perimeter shots. Number two, when you get to the basket, I can simply foul you and send you to the free throw line as opposed to letting you convert shots at the basket. Number three, and more importantly, because of that, as the game wanes and crunch times arrive, you are an impediment to the team's success in a lot of situations when going up against elite competition if they're shot makers. That's why Max Kellerman and myself have the Brooklyn Nets as favorites. Why do we have them as favorites, Molly? Why do we have them as favorites, Max? We know they ain't elite defensively. We know that they are below average at best. We were making news about the Nets being ranked 25th as a defensive team and saying that's good enough because they are unstoppable.
Yeah, they score
offensively. Unstoppable. They're shot makers. And so when you compare LeBron and some of his recent struggles, particularly from the free throw line, in that regard, and obviously as a perimeter shooter overall, and you compare that to the marksmanship and the sniper-like capability of Kevin Durant, what would you rather have? I'd rather have Kevin Durant.
I would say it's very close. I'd say it's undetermined right now, but you're entitled to your opinion, as everyone is. I think LeBron is surprised that no one's opinion is that it's him, because Molly's right about the numbers. And in terms of the free throws, LeBron's not a bit like, if he hits about 70% of his free throws. It should be higher. It should be better. That's not a disaster. Out of every 10 trips to the line, or every 5 trips to the line, if it's not an and one, right? You're shooting 2 free throws, so you have 10 free throw shots, right? Out of every 10, KD will hit 2 more than LeBron. That means every 10 trips to the line, KD is worth 2 points more than LeBron. But LeBron more than makes up for that in other ways. Kevin Durant turned into an excellent passer. LeBron James is among the very greatest passers who ever lived. He elevates the play of those around him, unlike anybody else.